Bobby Kotick and Mike Morhaime were the video game industry's unstoppable pair until they fought each other. An excerpt from the new book Play Nice by Jason Schreider. Bobby Kotick and Mike Morhaime couldn't have been more opposite if they had been grown in a laboratory. Perhaps the only things they had in common were they both ran video game companies and they were both very rich as a result. Before he became the charming and boisterous chief executive officer of Activision, which produces the war shooter franchise Call of Duty, Kotick skipped classes so he could focus on money-making endeavors and eventually dropped out of college. Morhaime, who co-founded and ran Blizzard Entertainment, was the nerdy, introverted student who sat in the front row and cracked open VCRs after school for fun. Can I just go back really quick? And they really put the word charming for Bobby Kotick. What in the dude? Yeah, and you know what, dude? I'm 6'8", 235 pounds, and I can run a 4-1 flat. What the are you smoking? Anyways, when they fully grown, Kotick went up to celebrity parties in the Hamptons. Meanwhile, Morhaime called up his programmers to ask about changes he'd noticed during the late night sessions playing StarCraft 2. Kotick maintained a private art collection worth millions of dollars. Morhaime's house tiles were inscribed with the insignias from World of Warcraft. So we're getting a pretty good picture here, right? For many years, the two formed an unlikely yet harmonious pair in 2007. Activision merged with Blizzard's parent company, Vivendi Games, to create Activision Blizzard Incorporated. It was the perfect partnership. Activision was a leader on consoles, while Blizzard dominated on computers. The combined entity would become the most valuable, dedicated video game company on Earth, with a future market capitalization of $74 billion. 6 years after the merger, the problem started. In the spring of 2013, Blizzard canceled a bussy video game project called Titan, a successor to World of Warcraft that attempted to blend a first-person shooter with the calming vibes of The Sims. What the f***? After years of mismanagement, the project was abandoned at a cost to Blizzard of $80 million. According to people familiar with the project, who, like many people interviewed with the story, asked not to be identified to speak candidly. Hang on, wait a minute. Titan was Overwatch. They built a game where they thought they were building first-person FPS. Wow, but The Sims? Okay, that is wild. All right, that is wild. I've always heard that the idea of what Titan originally was supposed to be was very different than what Overwatch ended up being, but I've never heard The Sims before. The cancellation of Titan eliminated one of the reasons Kotick had wanted to own Blizzard in the first place. With World of Warcraft subscribers dropping by more than half from a high of over 12 million, Kotick was eyeing the next big thing. He touted World of Warcraft during investor presentations and Hollywood parties, occasionally bringing its developers to meet celebrities such as Tom Brady. These guys made World of Warcraft, he'd say, and now they're making something even bigger. Why does it sound like they're talking about like Jeff? Who would they be touting around who was making Titan to big events? It would be a game director, would it not? By this time, Kotick was becoming even more invested in Blizzard. In the summer of 2013, he struck a deal with Vivendi to buy its shares and take Activision Blizzard independent, effectively giving him and his allies control of the company. Kotick and his chief operating officer, Thomas Tipple, began to apply pressure, asking Morhaime and the other Blizzard executives to give a full accounting of how the Titan debacle had happened. Say people familiar with the conversations, whose fault was it? Why did nobody step in? Kotick, Morhaime, and Tipple declined to comment. Wait, okay, so we're gonna probably get further into this, but like, I'm already kind of like, huh? So the Titan fails, right? And they're all pissed off, and they're like, someone has to be at fault here. And I don't know if you've noticed from the way it's written, but it seems very much Kotick is, I'm here to make money, I'm here to impress everybody else. And Morhaime, it seems more of like the I want to make good games, more of the nerdy, more of the dude that actually probably aligns more with you and I, as opposed to trying to impress Tom Brady at an event. you know? It was just Bobby's continued sense that we were not extracting enough value out of the IP, says Geo Hunt, a former executive at Blizzard. Even the way he'd say something like would just make everyone at Blizzard upset. Wow. And this is 2013 Blizzard, by the way. This is not the Blizzard of today where we all know that shit's gone south. Like, this is all the way back then they were having big problems. And I mean, it sounds like he had not only has control because he was CEO and, you know, ran the company, but he bought all the shares to take them independent. So he was kind of the reason why they were like an independent company, which gives you even more power, right? In the years that followed, Activision would take a larger role in Blizzard's operations, driving out throngs of veteran staff as it pushed the game maker to cut costs and release products more quickly. By 2021, Blizzard's once pristine reputation was tattered by mass layoffs, public relations disasters, a botched game release, and a staggering lawsuit from California accusing the parent company of systematic sexual misconduct and discrimination. Sensing an opportunity and perhaps a discount, Microsoft Corporation struck a deal to buy the entirety of Activision Blizzard for $69 billion. Nice. And Activision Blizzard reached a settlement with California for $54 million without admitting wrongdoing. We know all this already, but it's kind of sad how fast it happened. Although Kotick stepped down last December, the company is still reckoning with the impact of his reign and falling out with Morhaime. I've said this before. I've said this a billion times. And you know what? Every time I say it, there's always some troglodyte in the comments. You're like, oh my god, you're such a shill. No, dude. I try to always be super critical of things that I don't think are good, and I try to applaud things that are good. And even though Bobby's gone, there are still absolutely remnants and ghosts of that dude. You can't be somewhere for 20 plus years and not have a fallout after you just leave the door. Like there's ideals, there's people that aligned with you. There's so much other shit that goes into that and so many other problems that they have to kind of start all over. Never mind the reputation is smoked. It's gonna take years to fix any of that. Many of the details of these disagreements have never been previously reported. In some ways, a familiar story, the push and pull between business and creative interests, and what's lost when one side wins out. The result will have a lasting effect on one of the industry's most cherished studios and on the world's second most valuable company, which is still trying to figure out where its new acquisition fits in its portfolio of gaming businesses. I really do hope that Microsoft doesn't kind of just like sweep a lot of games under the rug that are not WoW, and actually gives them a chance to shine. It just, from what I've seen so far, it's hard to say that that's going to be a thing, because like there's been multiple layoffs already. There doesn't really seem to be big marketing pushes, which is a little bit sad. So I hope that doesn't end up being the case. But let's keep reading though. Morhaime couldn't have known it at the time, but the sinking of Titan would reshape the company he built and even tear him away from it. Morhaime started at Blizzard in 1991 with Alan Adham, his classmate at the University of California at Los Angeles. Before long, he turned into the most beloved game brand in the Western Hemisphere. For the first 2 decades, every title they put out was a hit. Warcraft Orcs and Humans, released in 1994 for Microsoft DOS, asked players to inhabit a Tolkien-inspired world where they'd mine resources and build armies of archers, foot soldiers, and warlocks to destroy their opponents. 2 years later, Blizzard released Diablo, a medieval hack-and-slash action game where the boss was the devil incarnate. 2 years after that, StarCraft took the Warcraft formula and put a sci-fi spin on it, pitting advanced human civilizations against oversized bugs and other alien creatures, a succession of sequels and spin-offs of the franchise followed. The key to Blizzard's success was a philosophy instilled since the early days to value players above profits and to give every game as much time as it needed, a lesson learned in 1996, when the first Diablo missed Christmas but still sold millions of copies, which was a big haul at the time. It'll be ready when it's ready, Blizzard employees liked to say. That's changed over the years, but even worse is when they did have the it'll be ready when it's ready, it was started to like disappoint people. And that's why they kind of changed their philosophy, I think. In contrast, Kotick believed in games with what he called the potential to be exploited across every year across every platform. I'm sorry, what? Is that a quote? Potential to be exploited every year across every platform. Holy f***. And the floors of his company were littered with the corpses of franchises that had been sucked completely dry. Among them were Guitar Hero, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, and Skylanders, which paired physical toys with a video game in an especially lucrative combination. He was particularly excited about Titan, which Blizzard promised would be a blockbuster and a worthy successor to the lucrative World of Warcraft. But Titan foundered. Is that supposed to be floundered? Foundered for several years, dealing with technical challenges, shifting art direction, and an unclear vision from a mercurial director with too much on his plate. According to people familiar with the development in 2013, recognizing the lack of progress, Blizzard canceled the project, later calling the decision excruciating. A frustrated Kotick then pushed Morhaime to bolster, now I'm losing my shit today, his C-suite and bring in a chief financial officer with experience at a publicly traded company who could keep costs in check. Tipple recommended an old colleague named Armin Zersta, who worked with him at Procter & Gamble, where they had marketed and distributed detergent, shampoo, and diapers. By the way, really weird side note, if you don't know about Procter & Gamble, they literally like own everything on shelves. Like if you ever go to like a grocery store and you go to like the detergent aisle or anything like that, there are entire rows that they just own the entire thing. Every brand, by the way. Like there's like 19 different brands. You're like, oh, which one do I want? No, they own all of them. Over the course of a few hours, Zerva interviewed with several Blizzard's top executives and game leaders who convened the following week and agreed. No way. They all had similar takeaway. Zersta didn't express much interest in gaming or Blizzard's player-first culture. He just kept talking about how to make as much money as possible, according to people who were in the meetings. They described him as a sharp businessman with values that were at odds with Blizzard's. Tipple asked Morhaime to give Zerza another shot, so he came back for another round of interviews. This time, he talked less about profit margins, and Blizzard executives began to feel like resisting was a losing strategy. Though an Activision Blizzard spokesperson, Zerza declined to comment. Wait, are they still there? Blizzard hired Zerza in 2015 as its first CFO. He said he wanted to build a world-class finance department and began bringing in new employees with Ivy League MBAs and backgrounds at firms like McKinsey & Co. Suddenly, finance people who had otherwise been relegated to the background were fixtures in strategy meetings, asking why Hearthstone, a Magic and Gathering-esque mobile game, wasn't pushing players to buy card packs more often, and why Overwatch, an online shooting game, wasn't selling maps and heroes to generate extra revenue. Oh my god. They wanted to sell maps and heroes. Holy shit. The company was doing well. Its revenue was $2.4 billion in 2016, thanks to the continued success of World of Warcraft and the runaway hit Overwatch. Still, Zerza seemed perplexed why Blizzard was maintaining expensive projects with low profit margins, such as the annual BlizzCon event. Oh my goodness. Blizzard managers explained that having their own convention engendered loyalty from customers and employees. Oh my goodness. Zerza suggested they kill it, say people who attended these meetings. Oh my god. Is this not like word for word shit I've said? We were right. The definition of you don't get it. Before Zerza, the company was run by Blizzard lifers and video game enthusiasts. But the CFO brought a completely different mindset. He frequently drew comparisons to his 2 decades developing brands such as Crest, Huggies, and Ivory, for example. Asking why Blizzard couldn't just speed up development of a game by opening a new office, as he'd done to ship soap more quickly in Brazil. Blizzard employees recall scoffing behind his back at his seeming inability to understand the video game industry, pointing out that no one would fly thousands of miles to attend a shampoo convention or meet their best friend through a shared love of their favorite toothpaste. In the coming years, as Zurza gained more power, staff began to see him as an avatar for Kotick, there to serve the CEO's will, a reasonable, if not totally accurate characterization. Occasionally, Zurza would disagree with Kotick and push back against budget cuts, according to people who were in meetings with them both. Holy mother of... Is this person still there? It's the same guy. Still there. So, when I have this conversation, and when I've talked about it in the past, like always, I hate being right. I hate being right at this point. Even though the big bad's gone, there are still people there that were either appointed into power or the culture is still there that absolutely cause issues, and why you still see problems to this motherfucking day. Seen as an avatar, they're still there. Kotick wasn't going to force Blizzard to release games before they were ready, but his message was consistent. Blizzard was letting its players down by not delivering game content more often. To Morhaime and his inner circle, these demands were contradictory. Kotick celebrated when Blizzard produced a new hit, but failed to grasp what it took to create one. Holy shit. That is the most true statement I've ever read. These demands were contradictory. Kotick celebrated when Blizzard produced a new hit, but failed to grasp what it took to create one. Holy shit. By 2017, Kotick and Tipple were battling with Morhaime every day. They asked why Blizzard had so many people in non-development departments, particularly customer service and cinematics. Oh, no. A group that made short films based on the games. The answer: players appreciated those things. During planning meetings, Activision executives would point out that they had more than 1,000 people on Call of Duty, while World of Warcraft had only a few hundred. Tipple offered man-month calculations to demonstrate the only way to release new content more quickly. A goal both companies shared would be to add hundreds more people to the World of Warcraft team. Morhaime, who believed in giving his teams agency to make their own hiring decisions, was resistant. Tipple snarked that Blizzard should change its company value to every voice within Blizzard matters. Dude, this makes perfect sense. The timeline matches up perfectly. The timeline legitimately matches up perfectly. Because in 2015, end of 2015, before the game released, cinematics. 2016, kind of cinematics. 2017, the cinematics kind of stopped. And there was only a few more after that. The timeline is legitimately perfect. So when they were arguing in 2017, these people made the decision that it's not important. That's why you don't have your story. That's why Overwatch has no story. That's why you don't have cinematics anymore. Because these guys made the decision in 2017. And that's why you only get them today when it's collabs. And it's, I'm not 100% sure who even makes them today. I don't know if it's outsourced to another company or whatever, but it only gets made for collabs, which are for money-making experiences. Holy mother of... And the worst part is like the game itself is slowly repairing, and it's like getting better little by little. And slowly, little by little, you see good things that are happening, right? Like there's little good things that are happening, but it's gonna take years because these people are still there. It all makes sense why Kaplan left. It all makes sense. Who the wants to deal with that every day? Because these people don't have to sit there and read through hundreds of thousands of comments on YouTube videos or Reddit posts or tweets or whatever, telling them that they're the biggest pieces of shit on the planet because they're not doing stuff for their game. They get to go home and play golf. all the developers and the community team that actually is the window that shows them the players' interaction, and they're the ones that gather all that information to then present it to upper management. They're the ones that have to read all the dog shit all the time and be told that they're terrible and they don't do their job and whatever it is. Corporate side don't give a fuck. You're just a number. And that's not just Overwatch. That's World of Warcraft, and why World of Warcraft fell apart for many, many years, and Diablo. And, well, is Smite officially dead? I don't know. One of them is dead. I forget, or Hearthstone. I don't remember which one's dead. But like, there's another one that, anyways. One of the most significant fights between Activision and Blizzard was over how to reward staff. Kotick believed in giving the biggest bonuses to the teams that delivered the largest profits, which would encourage more people to move to World of Warcraft, while Morhaime thought the entire company should benefit from profit sharing. Otherwise, there'd be no incentive for people to experiment with new ideas. Oh my Jesus. They struck a few compromises over time, as Morhaime agreed to shift a greater portion of profit sharing to the World of Warcraft team without eliminating bonuses for other divisions, but the argument was always simmering. How the f can you be so stupid? How do you not realize that if there's, first off, when you go to work to make money. It's just way better if you love your job. Like, if you love your job, it's like, doesn't feel like work, right? That's why I love streaming. Although there are some days that feel like work, but like 99% of the time, it's like, dude, I have a great time turning on my stream. I don't feel like I'm working. I'm just like, someone asked me earlier, like, what are you doing? Like, I asked them what they were doing. They were like, what are you doing? I was like, I don't know. I'm just in my house. Like, I don't even think about it. Like, it's not like, oh, I gotta go work today. I gotta go stream. No, I love it, right? But like, that's an extra bonus. That's an added benefit. Most people go to work because they need to make money. If you have a part of your company that very clearly is gonna make much more money than the rest of it, and you could have a chance to work in that section, of course you're gonna wanna work in there. Like, what kind of a brainiac is like, no, like we just want to reward we just have to put everything on one side. Well, then what's the point of having the other sections, right? Like, those other ones contribute, you know? It's the same reason why companies have like a major big product and then have smaller products. Well, they don't sell as much as the major product. So fucking what? They still sell a lot. Like, what? Kotick valued consistency, and Blizzard's belief in experimentation was at odds with that. Blizzard's profits swung like a pendulum. Hits and misses Blizzard profit. 2010, 0.85 billion, 0.496 billion, 0.717 billion, 0.37 billion, 0.75 billion, 0.56 billion, 0.99 billion, 0.71 billion. Also, this is profits, by the way, not revenues. Like, this is how much money they made. Also, this is the Overwatch year. Overwatch year was killed it. In 2017, it was swinging back again. And at that point, Blizzard had nothing significant to reverse their momentum. By the end of the year, Zurza had been promoted to COO at Blizzard and was overseeing many more departments, leading some longtime staff to begin accepting a dismal reality. Going to work every day was getting less fun. So from chief financial officer to chief operating officer, so like the guy went from making financial decisions to making your decisions on how the company works. So like how your work day goes. Well, I mean, they've made such great decisions with the financials so far. Surely that'll be a good thing, right? Right? Kotick had always harbored a not so secret desire to expand his empire beyond game publishing. He established an Activision Blizzard film and television studio in 2015, promising a Call of Duty cinematic universe, and hiring Stacy Sher, the producer of Pulp Fiction, and Aaron Brockovich, I don't know what that is, to help run it. Later, during a presentation to investors, he outlined plans for Activision to become more like Walt Disney Company. He spent $5.9 billion to acquire King, the maker of Candy Crush, and planned to go big on in-game advertising. This is just like this is like if you were a Pokemon trainer and you had to fill out the Pokedex of being a shithead. This guy's about to catch them all. He brought in former ESPN CEO Steve Borenstein. Wait, isn't this old ESPN that was literally falling apart too? Jesus Christ. To create an esports division and announced that Activision bought the assets of Major League Gaming Corp, then led US esports company for $46 million to create the ESPN of esports. Oh, Jesus Christ. MLG, dead. We all know how that went. The sudden enthusiasm for competitive gaming was a surprise to Morhaime. In the past, Kotick had protested Blizzard's investments in esports, but Blizzard leadership chose to see the change of heart as an opportunity. A small team of Blizzard employees met with Kotick to formally pitch what they were calling the Overwatch League, an esports circuit modeled on traditional sports leagues. Kotick loved the idea and put money in Activision's marketing muscle behind it, envisioning it as the esports equivalent of the National Football League, according to his ESPN. So, remember when Overwatch League got launched? How it kind of like took everyone by storm? Remember this. When they actually want to put their money where their mouth is with marketing, they can. So when you don't hear anything about games or patches or updates or anything with our universe for years, or World of Warcraft for years, it's because they choose not to. Just an FYI, just to remember that. Also, Overwatch League mentioned, Bad Pachimari appears. All is right in the world today. Nate Nanzer, who would become commissioner of the Overwatch League, had suggested charging potential owners $250,000 to establish a team. Kotick said they should aim bigger and do $20 million per franchise. Holy mother of f***. He was like, you know what? That's a pretty good idea, little guy, but you ain't thinking big enough. $250K? How about 20 million? Everyone was shocked. 20 million? Most of the world didn't even know what Overwatch was, but Kotick wanted to recruit billionaires who already owned sports teams and didn't want to underprice the opportunity. Over the next year, Activision Blizzard hired executives from the NFL and the NBA to staff its esports division, largely overlooking the expertise within Blizzard's existing esports group in 2017. Activision absorbed Blizzard's consumer products division, responsible for selling gear and striking deals with outside companies such as Lego AS. Wait, what the hell is Lego AS? Because I'm trying to think, there's another one. What's the Fanatics? Fanatics was the one I was thinking of. Kotick wanted to make hats, sweatshirts, and mugs based on the Overwatch League. We were hiring people left and right, says Matt Beecher, who was Blizzard's vice president of consumer products. It was just wild. Is it actual Lego? No shit. The NFL of esports turned out more to be like the XFL. Activision shut down the Overwatch League in 2023, saying it had faced headwinds, but the project was built around a Blizzard game, but overseen by Activision. Was a harbinger of Kotick's new approach. He wanted control. Yup, that's exactly what happened. That is legitimately exactly what happened. In the spring of 2017, Tipple stepped down as Activision Blizzard's COO. Somehow things got worse after that. Morhaime and his circle discovered that Tipple had sometimes served as a counterweight to Kotick and had been willing to check some of the CEO's worst impulses. His successor, Cody Johnson, went from being Kotick's cordial and seemingly respectable chief of staff to another potential roadblock. In April 2018, Johnson organized an off-site event for leaders of all three divisions, Activision Publishing, Blizzard, and King. The theme was unification, or 1ABK, as Johnson called it in the meeting. Kotick and Johnson were putting a corporate slogan behind a dynamic that had been apparent to Morhaime for years. Blizzard was losing its independence. Blizzard had already been saying departures of important staff, including the heads of Hearthstone, and many of the remaining executive producers and directors were expressing frustration with what they saw as Activision's growing interference. After the off-site, Morhaime wrote a lengthy email to Kotick, shared with several other executives, declaring that Blizzard had reached a tipping point. I believe that preserving Blizzard's culture and magic is a necessity for preserving Activision Blizzard's advantage of having an organization that can attract and retain the best creative talent in the world and can consistently produce the highest quality games and experiences, he wrote. It has been increasingly hard for me to provide Blizzard leadership and staff confidence that Blizzard has a stable future. Just again, this is April of 2018. You don't end up feeling the repercussions of this for years. By the summer of 2018, even entry-level Blizzard employees were accepting a reality that had long been shielded from them. Activision people were everywhere. There were a lot of talk of budget concerns and cost-cutting. Marketing, legal, HR, and many other departments got new bosses at the parent company. It was always very unclear who should be accountable, says Vincent Francoeur, head of Blizzard's web and mobile department. Not everyone objected to all of the changes. Some Blizzard employees embraced Activision's focus on business models, especially as Blizzard experimented with free-to-play mobile games and other newer ways to make money. In the past, it had been anathema? What the f is that? To even bring up finances in a games development meeting at Blizzard. Getting development teams closer to the economics was healthy, says Tim Morton, the production director of StarCraft 2. Oh, it means something forbidden? Thank you. Appreciate it. So, old Blizzard, basically it would just be unthinkable to bring up in development meetings. And like, wow, you're going to make the game costs or, you know, economic stuff. How are we going to make money on this, right? And now they were like, yeah, we should bring that up in normal meetings of development. So like making the game. So basically what that says to me is that from the start, it's no longer about just making a really good game. It's about making a game that also can be super monetized. So it's not about like, you know, it's capitalism. You got to make money to stay in business. It's literally, we are making this strictly to see how much money we can farm. That's crazy. Having run a successful company for 2 decades, Morhaime had more business sense than Activision people gave him credit for. He was just as competitive as his colleagues at Activision. One of his hobbies was playing poker at a professional level, and he'd spent years trying to find ways to satisfy Kotick without giving up what he thought made Blizzard great. He was a profit-motivated guy like everyone else, says Hunt, the former executive who was Morhaime's chief of staff for about 2 years. The difference is he wasn't a profit-motivated first guy. That's very important. Holy shit. That philosophy made him vulnerable. Those who sympathized with Kotick's perspective pointed out that in 2018, Blizzard generated less profit than King or Activision Publishing while employing more people. On top of that, there weren't any big games in the immediate pipeline. StarCraft and Heroes of the Storm, I know where this is going. Heroes of the Storm were both struggling to generate much revenue. New Diablo and Overwatch games were still years away, and other incubation projects were too early to count on. Holy fuck. By the way, this is 2018, so like they were talking about, they'd been working on Overwatch 2 already for probably a bit. People around Morhaime worried that his fights with Activision were taking a toll. He'd already submitted resignation later in 2017, but Kotick and Blizzard colleagues close to Morhaime had persuaded him to walk it back. In the spring of 2018, after the one ABK off-site, Morhaime realized he'd lost and began to quietly talk with other Blizzard executives about a succession plan. Damn, that's so sad. Because like, he saw the writing on the wall, was like, yeah, GG's, wrap it up, you know? And that's around the time that like we were already kind of starting to see some issues, you know? Like 2018 Overwatch like was pretty peak, like it was doing really well, but like you could tell like it was like they weren't doing everything right. It was like, wait, this is like the best game on the market right now. What's going on? What are you guys doing over there? On October 3rd, 2018, Morhaime announced that he was stepping down. He didn't offer much of an explanation in public, writing in a blog post that he had decided it's time for someone else to lead Blizzard Entertainment. But for those who worked closely with him knew why he'd left. He was tired of fighting with Kotick. He looked like a second-term president, said one former executive who had asked not to be identified. Blizzard's staff was devastated. They worshipped Morhaime. He was the boss who greeted receptionists by name and responded directly to the emails from low-level workers. Wait, pause. I remember there's an old, there was a short I saw somewhere. I think it was a Pirate Software short where it was like, there used to be an open door policy at Blizzard where like you could just immediately email Morhaime. Was it Morhaime or was it somebody else? I don't remember. If there was ever a problem, like you could literally just send him an email. Email Mike. Very clearly a different culture, you know? Hundreds of employees wrote emails and letters to Morhaime to thank him and wish him farewell. They soon discovered what Morhaime already knew. Blizzard would never be the same. Holy mother of... That is crazy. Oh, that's sad to think about. It's probably going to take many, many years to even undo all the damage that's been done. Joanna responded to me an email from me within 2 days of her starting, and I'm not a lead of anything. I think we have good leadership today. I think, yeah, I think Joanna is actually a good example. I remember saying like a year ago when they came on, I noticed immediately, like when they took the position, like they immediately just went through and like we went and followed like every creator from all the games, like from WoW, Overwatch, you know, like whatever, like, you know what I mean? Like all the Blizzard games. And I felt like they were just watching. They were just like sitting back and watching and seeing like people's responses and just like see how people have been talking about their games, right? It seemed like someone who wanted to be very connected. And I remember making a note of it at the time, being like, that's very interesting. That's a pretty good sign. However, though, I'm sure there's a lot of deep roots that are still problems there today. But wow, this is probably one of the most in-depth behind the scenes as we've ever gotten. Sad to see, but hopefully brighter days are ahead. You know, at least the one thing about time and one thing about always being able to look back from the future is we typically find out the truth. It just takes a long time, and sometimes it takes too long and people don't end up caring that much anymore. But yeah, it's almost like all of our assumptions of chasing short-term profits over long-term sustainability and chasing what players actually want is not good. And also considering this one earlier about Ubisoft getting an investigation launched into it, I wouldn't be surprised if there's more game companies that have issues coming out. So